up and running. This is very interesting how all of this works. Every time it's different. And I think it has to do with a lot of energies. We have a solar eclipse coming up on the 21st of August. Any of you that normally follow me on my any one of my Facebook pages, especially the personal timeline page, you will see some things I placed up there in my timeline. Some things were given to me through my ancestors, Mother Grace, Grandma Charlotte. They're pretty high up the ladder in their work, souls, and also Akhenaten and some few other connections awakened me to release some information. So I'm not going to talk about that information in this particular broadcast, but in the light of a lot of different events going on, we're going to do some specialized meditations today, and I might use a particular sentence or paragraph out of my book here, which is Dancing in the Light of Divine Grace. So this book is getting to be pretty popular. The first level of books are going rapidly off my shelf, and I'm going to have to order some more come maybe September so that we could keep people abreast of the things or events that went on in my life, and that also may remind them of things that go on in their life and how there are actual spiritual lessons and recipes in our lives that we don't see right away, and we see it as we grow through a life's experience or milestone, if you want to call it. So this book, I'll mention throughout at the end of the show how you can get a copy of this, Dancing in the Light of Divine Grace. All right, so through divine power and by divine grace, may all who get a chance to see this show live or see it later in my YouTube channel called Circle of Grace 1, may you be blessed by the seeds of grace. May they become treasures and pleasures for you. May they become the gems of grace in your life. May they act like a beacon light in your life that could help you become more elevated, more expansive, and freer, so that you can also remember that you are not alone on this particular matrix called the earth, and that you have birthrights. Some people call it divine rights, natural rights, spiritual, if you want, to be able to remember and connect with the higher powers within yourself, and that you have never been separated from these things. So in that, so shall it be. You know, too bad I didn't have a book here. I probably have it in my archives of books. What comes to mind is Paramhansa Yogananda. The Paramhansa Yogananda out of India eventually put together, he was an enlightened being on earth, eventually put together his Self-Realization Fellowship. And back in my earlier days, fresh out of college, some 40 years ago, he was one of my main staples to read from. And self-realization is just to come into an awareness of who you truly are, that you are an agent of the God mind, the universal God mind on earth. That God mind has deposited itself throughout not only your life's expression, out of expression, but also your internal life. And so there are many codes of divinity, infinite codes of divinity in so many layers. It's mind-boggling. We can't really capture all of it. But one of our purposes is to show love, which is unconditional love. One of our other purposes is to show understanding and compassion to others. And often we find ourselves at a crossroads, how to go about doing that. There are so many other beings who are also masters in their own right. They are also souls expressing their power, and some of it through their ego, through the low side of their ego, expressing things that we know can be harmful to others. But as they say, there are a lot of beings that surround this matrix called the Earth. And within this game, this particular matrix, there's free will. So, you can't change everybody's mind. The only mind that you can change is your own, which then allows you to change your particular path that you are on so that you can really begin to open up more and begin to show and live your divine self on this current earthship within this physical form that you can change. We know that we can change the outward appearance to some extent. Some people do it through mechanical means. Others, we do it through, breathing, the science of breath, the science in the right foods, the science of exercise. We're also going into different mindsets and then being able to communicate with the various cellular uh, vibrations and elements, essences in the body, and then be able to turn those switches off and on to be able to communicate. So from lifetime to lifetime, from clusters of years to other clusters of years, we're going to see these different hurdles out here in front of us. And so for the most part, it's for most of us, it's just learning how to control our own thoughts, our own feelings. It's not about changing someone else's will, but it's also bringing yourself to the awareness that you have this greater plateau around you that you're in touch with every day, and things can happen. You come across other beings in physical form that may agree with you or not agree with you. Some are upset about all kinds of things and use you as the target for their aggressive actions. And this happens, we see it all the time. And then we see how things can be manipulated and pumped up through other sources, whether it's news media, gossip, you name it. So it takes a lot of work on our part to be able to find those resources that are divine resources inside of ourselves and begin to change the program inside of ourselves. Now, we often find one of the most important things is to seek guidance. So there was a statement in my book here in the chapter 18, The Path to Spiritual Freedom, and it's all about releasing mental and emotional baggage. Be it, you see it right now today, is a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, a lot of denial, a lot of ignorance. Ignorance is just a lack of information, not knowing what you need to know so that you can better communicate with others. Low self-esteem, living according to other people's expectations, or maybe asking other people to live by your expectations, being too self-centered, depending too much on others, being irresponsible for ourselves. So there's a lot of things, but one of the things we want to be able to do is we want to be able to go beyond and begin to rise above this earthly mundane world. And every great master in a male form or female form has done that, has actually go beyond the physical and reached deeply into themselves and reached out into the greater world of divinity to free themselves, to free their consciousness. And as one does that, able to reach back into the soul pods, the soul circles, or soul families, and create a clear path, a demonstration of a clear path so that others can see that it's possible to move out of limited thinking, move away from anger, to conquer anger, limited thinking, to conquer poverty consciousness, to conquer low self-esteem, and to be able to just take those things and turn it around. So As I say in one of the paragraphs that I'm going to read leading right up to the end, on page 130 of chapter 18, going from 130 to 131, there is a statement in here. And it says, once we pick ourselves up from being and feeling downtrodden, lost, confused, lonely, or even angry, we let faith fuel hope. Hope is likened to a great torch that lights up our newfound life. We become self-reliant and we begin to connect with the universal natural divine forces, as I list here, called angels. Angels are the messengers of God, quote unquote, manifested in the flesh. Some have come in human form, while others have remained fully in divine flesh known as spirit. Even though we might think that we walk alone, we do not. We are learning and living our principles, as they are the fundamental truths of all truth. That's what a principle is, a fundamental truth of all truths. And you can see in the word principles, prince, the word prince is there. So prince, that's a rank. Think of different cultures. We have kings and queens, sultans, sheiks, so forth, and you have a prince. A prince is the male, the boy. Princess is the female, the girl, born beneath the king, the queen, and the sultan, who's in position to be taught how to take over mom and dad's position at some point. So that's where the prince, they're in position to receive and then move into the seat. It says our lives are so unique. It doesn't really matter if you are rich or poor. And yet it is better to be rich, rich in spiritual knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, electrified and magnetized by divine light, unconditional love, and grace divine. There are many rich persons with a poor mind, and many poor people with a rich mind. The two extremes have always been a rich person with a rich mind and a poor person with an equally poor mind. Therefore, let us keep in mind that we all possess the capacity and desire to change. A new sense of a more spiritual self is now coming, now beginning to manifest as we begin to embrace our truer selves. As we accept and welcome these changes, be aware that we won't be able to compare it with the past. In a sense, the past becomes invalid, as it is a part of the third dimensional reality and plays no real part in the fourth dimensional realm that we find ourselves in now. Now, that is true in the sense that, we have lots of things going on, and it's our choice to go in the past. Like when you have students and they learn history, then they're living in a state of history, things that are happening right now. They have the emotions in play, their mind in play, their thoughts, their feelings, their sensitivities, coldness, warmness, hotness, the debates. And then they've got the things that went on before them, that their older siblings, their parents, aunts and uncles experienced, and then their grandparents, and going further back. So we begin to see the stories of history and things written in the books, yet we're living in a history right now. We're in a particular lane or several lanes in our life where there's some spiritual things going on to uplift us, metaphysical things to change the way that we think, and giving us greater philosophies. There are, things that are expanding, the different levels of not only metaphysics and spirituality, but parapsychology. All those things are coming into play. Spiritism is coming into play. So we're seeing everything. Our intuition is being pulled forward. Our empathic natures are being pulled forward. Our psychic energy being pulled up. Then you've got the material world that you're looking at. And we might see some inventions going on in the material world, some new things, and some things that were made long ago that someone is improving upon, not for themselves, but for humanity at large. So we see all this stuff going on. We're in the midst of it all the time. There's something going on all the time. Then we are striving to have just a better understanding of why there's opposition in the world. And that's growing all the time. But we learn not to feed into it. Sometimes we're feeding into the energy. You've experienced that. Sometimes if you think about something way too much, you find yourself drawing it near you. If you have a certain fear about something and you think about it or you resist it enough, let's say you want to lose weight, like me, I want to work on losing weight, and I get a little lazy and I start resisting it. I don't want to do the necessary work that it would take to do it. Well, the more I resist it, the greater the weight shall be. It's not going anywhere. But the minute I apply my energy and I begin to work on it and accept it, okay, it's there, and then I could work, there's something I can do. I could reach out and get help. Then that entity, that force called so-called weight, starts to dissolve. I don't have to worry about it. I just have to work on the things that will make me healthier from the inside out. Then the external part will do its part. That's just a sort of an offbeat example. But the thing here is on page 131, our faith in connection to the divine source and being in flow with it will continue to be strengthened as we live courageously through our hearts. See, we're already in the fourth dimensional density. That's been here. Now, this is my view of it. So we've been in it a long time. I've been exercising compassion and understanding and unconditional love for a long time. Many people have on the planet. Many people have been more loving in the past 20 years. We look at the word generation, that's 20, 30 years at a time. So people have been doing this. Now we're getting ready to see, and because of the World Wide Web involved, and movies and DVDs and CDs and lectures and things you can get just by sitting in front of a computer, then opportunity to meet great teachers, you begin to see this convergence that's going on. People coming together of a like mind. And here's another thing that's very important, because it says here, we will be inspired by that faith. See, we will be inspired by that faith and the infinite guidance we receive from the God force realms as we aspire to a more rewarding quest for spiritual freedom. So, see, everybody wants to be happy. Everybody. Even people that are acting out in negative ways that can be harmful toward other people. They're all striving for happiness. They're all seeking to be happy. They're all seeking to be free from disdain and things that are hurting them. Lack of money, lack of love, unconditional love, lack of family, lack of friends, lack of being heard. And we see this all the time. So what can we do about that? Well, again, you can only change yourself. If you could change the energy levels within yourself, you create a better electromagnetic flow of energy around you. There's this writer by the name of Greg Braden, Braden. Many of you may have heard of him. One of his books, I have a lot of his books. I have one book called The Divine Matrix Code, I think it's called, and another one dealing with the silence that's going within your heart chakra, and being able to connect with everything around you and say your prayer from your deepest point in the heart, as we say, the heart chakra, with its absolute stillness. And one of his books, he says something that if you could use a number a number that can grow and be exponential. If you had 8 people, not 8 people in the same place, but 8 people spread out. So let's say instead of 8 people in the state, in each state in North America, but if you had 8 people spread out in the United States, and they were strong enough in their mind, in their emotions, had absolute clarity, had a very strong will, that they could hold space, they could be an anchor for the country or the region that they are standing in. They could be that beacon light that can make their presence known, meaning that there's so much electromagnetism running through their body that even elements in the earth, plant life, insects, other animals in the water, and mammals in the water, and other forms on the earth, and those that fly, they could hear, they could feel, and they would come to that individual or feel that there's peace around them, there's nothing for them to fear. And then just imagine in your mind if 8 people could lay out that kind of energy. Now, they would have to do it in a concerted effort. Lay out that energy. Even just a few, 3 or 4 could do one way, 2 over here could do something, 2 over here. But they could dynamically lay out the energy that it's so subtle and yet so intense that it can change the atmosphere of the entire country. And imagine if you had multiplied that by 100. You had 800 people. Let's say 800 people in the entire state. You got 51 states times 8. And then when you just add on double zeros there, so that's what? That's 548 with 2 more zeros. So that's what? 5,800 people in one state, or 5,800 people in the entire United States, and then multiply that through all the provinces. Now, if there's such as 1 billion people or 1 trillion people or 7 billion people in the world, as some people say, if that's accurate, all you need is a small percentage of that. And he's talking about use the number 8. So take 8% of, let's say, 7 billion people, or make it easier, 7%. If those 7% could hold the intention of absolute peace, and could radiate that energy 360 degrees all the way around them in every possible direction, while they sleep, while they're talking and communicating, while they're having fun, while they're working, while they're in relationships with people, while they're interacting on various levels with people, or interacting with the nature of their environment. If those people could do that, those people could eventually turn the bigger wheel. The collective body then, who works just in a certain range of consciousness, could then feel the possibilities in their consciousness. And they would begin to what? Carry out or strive to figure out what all that new energy is like, and strive to bring it forward into their lives, and then begin to utilize it. So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to see it through, as they say. We have to plant the seeds. It is important to plant the seeds. If you can plant the seeds, and everybody is a planter, everybody is a farmer of ideas, everybody is a cultivator of ideas. If we could do that, we would see change. Now, I'm not just talking about adults. I'm talking about children as well, teenagers. You could see change. That means those who act out of a criminal state of mind would begin to change. We would eventually see whole generations after us change because the current generation would be affecting every mind, every heart. And not because they're trying to change anything, they're just trying to lay out an infinite flow of electromagnetic healing, unconditional love, safety, where one no longer, anybody walks into that pool of light, if that energy is strong enough, it can override. And I'm not talking about, again, changing them, because look at this. The element of fire, when something is on fire, the spirit of fire is not there to change you or water. If you happen to be in the environment, you're going to be what? Anointed by the fire. You're going to be taken in by the fire. You're going to be what? Singed, burned, whatever, by the fire. But the fire's original intention didn't come to specifically burn you. It just came through to burn whatever environment that initiated it, that put it into motion. Yet there's a spirit in the fire. There's a spirit in the water. There's a spirit in the air. There's a spirit in the earth, and the ethers, as we call it, or spirit itself, contains the fire, air, and the water and earth in so many different ways. But what am I saying? Well, I hope I'm getting this point across. We have to work at changing the way we think, changing the way we feel. We have to work at elevating ourselves and elevating our souls, the essence of our souls or spiritual natures. We have to open up our physical selves because we have the capacity to hold spirit within. We have the capacity to hold light within the body and then radiate it. But what would be our purpose of radiating it? So that not just others can see it, but so that others can benefit by it. That's what we would hope. You would hope that the light that you can achieve, others can benefit by it. Akhenaten, the spirit of Akhenaten, ancient one I'm able to pick up on a vibration that's given to me etherically in a dream state or when I'm receiving it on a higher plateau, not in my physical ego-based mind, but in my geo-based mind, that spirit side. He says that you could hop from one timeline to the next. I mean, how is it that we are channeling Archangel Michael and the angels and other great deities? We must be hopping timelines already. Some people, yeah, we want to generate enough energy so that we can see peace around us. But let us not be selfish and just see the peace around us. Let's put out enough light, enough energy that peace can be felt 100 miles away, 10,000 miles away, 100,000 miles away. Let's have that kind of a goal, that the peace can be felt hundreds of thousands of 10,000s of 100,000s of miles above us. Do you know that for centuries and eons, many people have been using occult rituals to get what they want? Occult rituals to change the baser side of themselves alchemically. Occult rituals and rites and ceremonies to empower themselves to change their environment and change the people that are in that environment. Yet, Some fail to realize that they are totally responsible for that which they engage in, that which they are striving to do. Everybody has a purpose. That's what this show is about. Everybody has a purpose or several purposes. I call it in my book the question why. Like what do you want? Where do you want it? Why do you want it? When do you want it? And how? So those are the 5 questions a journalist has to ask when they're interviewing somebody. They got to cover those 5 questions. And what I've discovered over the years, when I first wrote that inside chapter 19, The Art of Manifesting Your Heart's Desires, the 5 points, as it was called, the most important thing I've been realizing is you may not even know what it is that you want, but you have this urge, this pending desire to figure out, well, why? What is it that I want, but why do I want it? Why do I have the desire to ask about it? Why do I want it in the first place? And what I've learned over the years, and I wrote that back in 2003, it's in my book. I have it as a PDF that people can buy it. But it's already here for free in the book, chapter 19. But I've come to the realization that maybe the order I should have put it in is why, or what do you want and why do you want it before you go into where and when. Because if you can answer the what, it gets clearer to you when you understand the why. The why means the purpose for having what you have. What's the purpose of gaining all this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding? If that's what you want, but what are you going to do with it once you have it? Some people acquire things, and I've been through that too myself. You acquire things to feed your ego mind. So there was a part of me, you get out there and you brag about it. Yeah, I got this, man. I can do this. Even though you can do a little. Or you know how to construct some rituals, occult rituals. You know how to execute the energy. You know how to invoke and evoke a thing. But you still did it because you have this big ego, because, wow, you know how to do this. And you're in touch with some big spirits. Instead of paying attention to, is what I'm doing, is this the thing that I should be doing that could further help the greater humanity for its highest good? Because if I'm just doing it for power, eventually, as they say, power will become corrupt, and power will corrupt power. Otherwise, it'll blow it out of its base. You'll just be doing it because, hey, you just want to be over somebody. And at the same time, you lost all your ethics and lost all your morals, lost all your heart to be in service. So you became full of avarice and greed and deceit and manipulation. You didn't do anything. You didn't warmly greet your brother and sister, right down to the animals and the insects and those which live in the sea and those that live up in the upper mountains and up in the trees. You didn't do anything to create a sense of an ambiance where there's peace, harmony, and happiness. You didn't do that. You served yourself. And you have to serve yourself to some extent, but it has to be in balance with serving others to create that peace, harmony, and happiness, so that wherever you go, you feel comfortable, and where others go, they feel comfortable as well. So we have this, and it's important. It's important to be able to do the things that we need to do or that we desire. because it's what we're here to do. So this is essential. We have to be able to create a change in our lives. When we're able to create the change, and this goes back to Paramhansa Yogananda, to have that sense of self-realization that we can be God. We are the essence or agent of God on earth, in this matrix called the earth. And we can be this God, but have the responsibility. And the word responsibility means the ability to respond to light, to its opposite, darkness. And lightness and darkness work hand in hand. So all this darkness that we see floating out here, all these dark actions going on, they're not going to last forever. Why? Because they're a part of the light, and eventually they get consumed by the light. What happens is, like one of my other colleagues said last week, she brought a very good point out. She says, all the darkness that we see, the darkest of the darkest, and it ain't even gotten really dark yet. All these dark actions and personalities is a direct result of the collective elements, collective humanity's darkest fears. Basically, that's what she said. All the stuff that we see, criminal, felon type activity, murderous activity, hatred, racism, bigotry, prejudice, whatever you want to call it. It's our worst nightmare, our worst fear that we've contained and held on to and never got rid of enough of it or all of it. That means people in certain positions of power. And see, I've noticed this when people practice magic, M-A-G-I-C-K, out there practicing magic amongst themselves. There are people that are using the magic to manipulate whole forces of people, to do some of the scariest things, to take people back into states of slavery and keep them there, and actually bring back the killing of people and all that nonsense. Yet there's equally a bigger crowd of people, circles of people that do good work. And it never occurred to them that they could release something positive to help maintain a balance, and eventually for things to be neutral, and eventually there's no more separations, and then there's a balance. So people talk about the golden age. The golden age is coming, but what are we going to do to greet it? Your golden age could be happening right now, but what are you doing to make it so for yourself? On whatever level that you can, create the success for yourself. It might mean letting go of some old connections, old friends. Not that you dislike them, but they're not being progressive in a spiritual way. Maybe they don't understand, but there's some people who don't want to understand. They're there maybe to act as catalysts for you to just move forward. And so once you can get past that feeling, I'm going to leave some people behind. I might leave a family or a spouse or a sibling behind. I might leave a child behind. I might leave an elder, a neighbor, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, a grandchild behind. Well, I've come to understand, as the teachings of Akhenaten says, when you vacate a place, that place will be filled. Who's ever ready to come in and fill your shoes that you left back there or here as you move on, they're going to fill them. They may not do it the way that you did it, but they're going to fill them. They're going to take on, and they're going to have a greater understanding, because you're moving into a higher realm of consciousness where you're now remembering to do things and put things out there for yourself. So, you just have to work at it. So it becomes not a job. It's just automatic. So before I close out, what I want to do is kind of give us a meditation that we could use. It says, as in this chapter, we want to feel this chapter. Chapter 18 to page 31. Let faith fuel hope. Now, what is faith? Faith is an act or a demonstration where you see the truth happen around you. And that gives you faith. Take that H off and reverse the positions of the A and the I, and you have fiat. Fiat is a spark, divine spark. And the H is a breath sound. So you're using your breath to release the breath of spirit to create, to fuel the hope. Some places said, let hope be your beacon light. When you need something, you hope it's there. When you desire to be successful, you hope that you arrive. You hope that you learn what you need to learn. But hope sometimes just brings us past belief. So this is where we got to jump into faith. Faith is what you know to be true. You can see it. It's happened numerous times around you. It may have happened in very subtle ways. So this meditation, if you can, just allow yourself to be seated, lay down somewhere. It only takes a few minutes. I want you to breathe in and out of the nose and release the breath through the mouth. Just gain a sense of relaxation and centeredness. And as you gain this degree of centeredness, I want you to begin to just focus on yourself becoming light. The light of compassion is in you, the light of faith, the light of understanding, the light of all knowing and more knowing is there, the light of infinity, unconditional love, mercy. There's so much more, and it's just coming through every inch of your body, all the pores. Even your hair has a flame about it. Your skin tone, a flame. Just like people go to the gym and exercise to bulk up and get strong muscles. Well, it's time to get those spiritual muscles in place. Let's build and get the spiritual muscles in place. Let's strengthen the spiritual mind. Let's open up the pathways in the brain, in the nerve system, bloodstream. Let's get those stronger. Let's know and say that everything and everyone around us that we greets us also in peace, unconditional love, harmony, happiness, understanding, respect. You have to love yourself. And many times you're going to see so-called wrong happen. You've got to bring corrective energy to it. Parents have to gain a better sense of control with their children. not let their children act out for the sake of acting out. One of the things I talked about on my show yesterday in this book also was the sixth field of awareness, and it's about being a visionary. So your homework is, what is your vision for your city, town, village that you live in? What is the vision for your neighborhood? What is the vision for your county? What is the vision for your state, city? What is the vision for your region? Eastern, Central, Mountain, Pacific. What is the vision for your country? What is the vision for your spirituality and your divinity and your grace that you're going to receive? What is your vision? What is the state of your health? The vision for your health. See, if we can create a vision that has a feeling of absolute harmony and peace, absolute, infinite, unconditional love, then so-called negativity will dissolve before it begins. It will dismantle itself. It will implode upon itself. Why? Because the codes of divinity, which involve that greater and infinite understanding, that greater and infinite wisdom, that greater and infinite knowledge, and the carrying out of such with a compassionate heart, an unconditional heart. See, we have to, if many of you know what a crystal ball is, I have several of them. It's the same thing. You want to train the mind to go within the crystal ball and reflect back to the third eye of vision, to see a vision out there in the world that you live in, because all worlds overlap. All these lanes of consciousness overlap. Do you know, for every person that's acting positive, even yourself, you have something in opposition, exact 180-degree opposite and variations of yourself out there doing stuff. And you got to pull all that together. That's the soul being fragmented. You got to pull it all together into one. And do you know, the ones that are being negative here have beyond the veils many variations of the soul that's very positive. So I leave that as a hint that you can't change sometimes the negativity that's going on. It's very hard to change that in front of you, but you can communicate. Very hard to communicate with the one in front of you, the ones on the earthly matrix, but you can actually go behind the scenes and start communicating with the higher self of those, which are open. I had a thing that came to me, and I'm going to close out. I felt that when the positive aspects of the soul throughout the greater realms of the matrix and beyond are putting out positive or seeking more positive, and that one force, that one part that's being negative, sometimes that negative entity that's running around here is creating a headache through the chain of energy going up and around to the most positive one. So the positive part of that being here has to correct that. And so I said to someone on my other show on Blog Talk today, Decree and It Shall Be, that we have to connect. Sometimes it's very hard to work with that which is in front of you, but there are other aspects of it that are higher and more positive. So you might as well reach into those zones, find that one, and talk to that one. Agencies have known for a long time that time travel always happened. and that Earth has a 20-year biorhythm up and down, like a sine wave. And you could find some dates and times where those sine waves link. And it didn't occur to me until just within the last 24 hours that this sine wave where time travel takes place, as an example, the Philadelphia experiment in and around August 12th and the 13th of 1943, also was connected 40 years into the future with the Montauk Project in Montauk, Long Island, New York. And I grew up on Long Island, but I wasn't physically on the page until 9 years later, born in 1952. But those energies were still there. And the same people that participated in the Montauk Project were a part of the Philadelphia experiment. They actually went back in time. And agencies, intelligent forces, governmental intelligent agencies have been working on these things for years in every country around the world. So if they've been working on it during that time and even before then, perhaps, in other lands and other civilizations, that's a hint that you have the ability to go back and kind of manipulate your own timelines to see where some things that you did that keep you from doing things now. You can actually go in there or recreate it in your consciousness now and find that which is in the past, which is completed, but find remnants of it in your now time. And then the plausible future, you're able to follow that timeline out and correct that ahead of time so that from this one point, all other points after it can change, have a domino or ripple effect. This is possible. It has always been possible, and it's been done numerous times. Akhenaten says, now's the time to remember. Get in the game of yourself and become a self-realized being. That's what people are talking about in a sovereign sense. To be sovereign means govern yourself. The laws are so intricate that you just might as well go into a divine law and understand it from that area and run the divine law codes through yourself and unleash them through yourself and figure it out. This is why everybody is an important component. Whether I have my spiritual sister, I won't mention her name here because she may not want me to do that right now, but she works on health. So that's her forte. I would say she's an alchemist for better health. That's not my forte. So I let her do that. I let her work that out even for me so I can try to figure out some things to do for myself health-wise. And she lets me do the quote-unquote metaphysical. And I delve into it just enough so I can understand the mechanics, but I stay more in my lane. And then there's people that are masters of music, masters of massage, masters of pranic healing, qigong, reiki, and it just goes on and on and on. See, we got all of these minds, all of these energies, and all we have to do is send an ounce of something to help erase negativity wherever it is. All we have to do is send it in to erase the essence of negativity. And if it's enough is sent, and I'm not saying control a personal mind, I'm just saying send it into the field of energy. If enough of it is there, the walls of deception, deceit, denial, frustration, poverty consciousness, hatred, racism, bigotry, prejudices, oppression, suppression, repression, the word press, right? Release all of that pressure where people can begin to not just love themselves, but love beyond themselves, not just like-minded, but those who they have to gain a better respect for, begin to love them as well and not bring harm. So take this as a meditation. Develop a meditation within it and around it, where you begin to embrace, whether you're using pranic healing, qigong, methods of tai chi, taekwondo, shotokan, whatever you want, yoga, hatha yoga, Ayurvedic systems, Ashtanga yoga, whatever floats your boat, as they say, herbs. Try to find the keys that allow you to communicate on a deeper level so that you could help bring treasure into the world. The golden age is just about here. It's not that far away. The time is already splitting up. What we got to do is go through the gateway. The way is get through the gate and pull the gold and the silver on board. Pull the positivity out more. Now all the negativity will begin to dissipate. It won't have a reason to be. And even those who act, because you're not trying to change their will, but they will change their own mind. They will see, like, what am I being angry about? It's just one set, small individual can't be everything. We're here to be one. No more separations. So that is my main message, and I went all over the place with it. I'll be back here next Thursday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central, 4 Pacific, and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another Brother Francis Revels-Bey, or Circle Grace One Live with myself, Brother Francis Revels-Bey. Now, if you want to get my book, Dancing in the Light of Divine Grace, here it is again. It's a paperback. It has even a directory back there with all contact information about some of the people here, as well as myself. The book itself is paperback. It costs $25. And in order to send it out to you with proper packaging and postage, you would just add another $3, so it's $28. You need to email me at iam.circleofgrace1@gmail.com or iam.circleofgrace1@yahoo.com, so I can send you an instructional email flyer that gives you 2 of the best ways in which you could purchase this from me. You're going to get it direct from me. And soon, probably around September or October, I'm going to have to get some more books onto the shelves, because a lot of people are wanting this information. It's about my life, the predictions that my mother Grace made, who was a spiritualist in the community, one of many spiritualist women and men that gave readings to family members, adults, you name it. But I didn't know that until I went into college. Then I realized who I was in the house with. Okay. And I give homage to her in here by writing about the predictions that she said that I would sooner or later begin to live out. And she even said I'd wound up here in Albuquerque. I'm in Albuquerque. I'm in the state of New Mexico, as if I was born here. But a long time ago. So email me, and then you can get it, or call me on my Skype number, which is 505-349-4722. That's 505-349-4722. Leave a message how we can connect with you so you can get this book. Or maybe you want a consultation. I can give you some pricing if you send me an email. You can call my Universal Prayer or Decree line, which is 505-717-4722. Notice those 4722 got double master numbers in there. You need to link up there and find out. You can go to my personal website, circlegrace1.byregion, BYREGION.net. That's Circle of Grace with the number 1 at the end, .byregion.net. And you can find out about my past there too, and see all the other things. I'm getting ready to update it, in fact, with some new information. You'll hear some audio on there and some video. Or go to my YouTube site. Just go and check up Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey or Circle of Grace 1 on YouTube, and you'll come to my channel. Every Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Mountain, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, for approximately 90 minutes to 2 hours. Today we almost went 3 for Decree It Shall Be. teach a lot from my book, and I give free spiritual mini readings and free mini numerology readings to anybody in the listening audience in the chat room who is, through the website on the chat room, who's called in that particular number that you'll see there. And that's Decree and It Shall Be. And then Wednesday mornings, now that Decree and It Shall Be is Blog Talk Radio Thursday morning, or Wednesday at 4 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Eastern, The Age of Remembrance. My shorter, more diverse channel runs 30 minutes, and that's Circle Grace 1 in The Age of Remembrance, Blog Talk Radio every Wednesday. If you need that information, just email me and I will send it to you. Well, as my late Mother Grace and Grandma Charlotte and Angel of Grace say, our grace, or my grace is your grace. Akhenaten and I say, our grace is your grace. The Angel of Grace and I say, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we are alive and well in the age of remembrance. Thank you for watching, and we'll be on next week.